real estate is transacted on the off hours. And having success here is working with a lender that's going to answer the phone on Saturday or on a Sunday morning and saying, can you just walk me through this? And I'm not saying that another lender wouldn't, but you know, it is always a little risky if you're not taking the advice from an agent that you're working with.
For sure. And Steph, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Because you represent a lot of sellers as well as buyers.
50-50 my business, yeah.
Right. So let's say you make a deadline for offers to be in by, let's say, Sunday at noon.
Yep.
How many times have you called a lender on a Sunday afternoon, evening, and they have not answered the phone?
An unfair amount of times to a buyer.
Right.
Yeah.
I take pride in communication and making sure that I'm giving every single competitive advantage for my client and for my real estate agents that are representing our clients to win this offer.
Woo! Open House with Steph.
Here we go.
Finally nailed down the title of this short form podcast content-y thing, but Open House with Steph, where we talk about real estate, life, everything in between. Today, I have a friend, first and foremost, and one of the best mortgage lenders that I have personally used, that my family has used, that I've been working with for 12 years,
at least
11 years.
At least.
I've been slowly torturing him for that long.
Not slowly.
Rapid fire pace.
Yes.
Andrew Eckstut with CrossCountry Mortgage, who's local to Philly. We're here in Manayunk at Young Junk. With actually, this is very fun to even say, the producer, owner of Young Junk, is a client of ours.
Absolutely.
Terry Leahy and his associate Dylan, who we love. So we're just gonna shoot the shit, really, and talk all about the nerdy side of the business, mortgages, but hopefully actually provide some clarity, insight, answer some good questions, high level, low level, you know, everything in between.
Value of all sorts.
Value of all sorts. I hate to even start here, but I think it could be helpful. But like, let's just start with the basics. What the heck is a mortgage?
Well, that's a great question. I'll do my best to answer it.
Go ahead.
So whenever someone is going to buy a property,
right,
they're either going to buy the property in cash, or they're going to require financing to actually buy the property, which is a mortgage.
Yes. It's a giant ass loan that helps you secure a very specific type of asset, which is a house that you live in. Great.
It could be a house. It can be commercial real estate. It could be a multi-unit property. It could be a commercial building. I specialize in residential financing for people that are first-time home buyers, people buying second homes, and people buying investment properties.
And you'll refi. You help me.
Absolutely.
Help me refi.
Absolutely.
From that, you know, high-ish rate of 5-ish or something.
We would kill for that 5-ish right now.
To my sweet 2875.
Yeah.
That was a nice day.
Yeah. I get asked a lot about those good old days. Good old COVID days with lower interest rates.
Although, you know, I will say this, and I don't know if you feel this sentiment too, but like, man, boy, people who've really been in the business a long time, they love to say, well, you know, in the 80s, the interest rates were like 17%. Like, nobody cares. Yeah. Like, nobody cares.
Yeah, nowadays, nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares.
Yeah. When we're sitting at the table with some of the agents that have been around for a long time, they love to reference that.
Well, it almost like it validates where we are, but it doesn't, because home prices have significantly increased in value, obviously. We could go down that path. But which brings me into a lovely interlude side path here conversation of rates and your predictions for 2025. So what do you think you're going to see in 2025? And by the way, I think you really are one of the top 3 people that I really find helpful in garnering significant information from. You're always keeping me up to date on all the important stuff, which every lender should be doing, in my opinion. There are some housing data stats that are directly correlated with what's going on in the market, and this is just part of my trusted advisory board here. So from somebody like the two of us who track the market, follow the market in different ways, I'd love to know what your predictions are, what you're kind of seeing. Go.
Well, our job is to provide as much value as possible for our clients, right? So my job as a lender is to provide as much value to you and all my other agents as much as possible so that you can do your job at to the best of your ability. Yeah. And part of that is giving you the proper information so that your buyers and sellers are in the know of what's going on.
Yeah.
With regards to predictions about interest rates, it's a great question, and it's such a fluid concept.
Yeah.
Especially because we just had a big election, obviously.
We did?
From what I've heard, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Big election. Our Fed chair is being replaced along with a lot of other prominent positions in our government.
Time out.
Yes.
How?
Powell is going to be gone.
But he was like firm no. Wait, when did this come out? Did I miss this?
Yeah, you did.
Yikes.
You did. Part of what's been in the news recently.
Like this past week?
In the last couple of weeks, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And when Trump announced who was going to be taking his place, the market did have it responded favorably for the last
It wasn't just favorable. It was like a religious experience. Like the markets loved it. It was wild.
Yeah, it's we're in wild times, a little bit unpredictable. Which is why we don't really know what's going to happen with interest rates this coming year. You would think that based on the trajectory of what's been going on with inflation, which has been coming down,
right,
and unemployment, which has been slowly rising a little bit, that we would think that interest rates would start coming down, especially because the Fed announced that their target is to lower the Fed funds rate by 2 percentage points by the end of next year.
Okay, so let's dumb that down. We just talked about unemployment, which is really an important concept because that really helps us measure, if people are really making money and how we can lend money to people at an affordable rate, right?
Well, yeah, it's one of the key metrics of our economy, of our GDP.
Right. So we have unemployment, we have inflation, we have, really like the biggest has been wage growth. And what else is playing into that is going to really determine if rates are changing?
Well, monetary policy and how this current regime, or how this regime coming in is going to treat that. Historically, if we go by what Trump did in his last stint as president, we have a lot of deregulation, a lot of pro-business practices, which historically has meant growth. Right. So lower interest rates means that builders can build at a more rapid pace, at in a more affordable way. And hopefully first-time home buyers will be able to, and other buyers will be able to take advantage of interest rates coming down, hopefully at least a little bit, and be able to afford more, because right now this will lead into a good transition to our next topic of home appreciation. Yeah. And what we've seen over the last 3 years, which is almost unprecedented. Well,
so I read a statistic, and it came out like last year. So maybe if somebody wants to hook me up with some data. But, the average home in Pennsylvania, if you purchase a house in 2020 to the top of 2023, it was like the average home value in Pennsylvania went up by 45%.
Yeah.
Bananas.
I posted this last week for people that think, oh, we're going to wait for interest rates to come down. Look how much equity, look how much money you've lost by not purchasing sooner.
Well, and I think time is money. So this is like a true statement that I'm giving all of my buyers right now. First of all, first and foremost, the best time to buy and sell real estate is whenever it fits into your life.
Yeah.
So I'm 37. You're 41? 41. Like, we are in our main income earning years. We have a lot of opportunity in front of us. I'm telling my clients, if it's comfortable today and you have a plan for the future and you feel strongly about the financial position that you are in, meaning that you're not necessarily thinking about retiring, next year or in the next couple of years, but you can see a path forward, that's really helpful. And time is money. And doing a calculation, I do this sometimes with my clients, about taking the average appreciation in the area that you're in, whether it's the school district or the township or the city, and figuring out, all right, what is the cost of waiting? What if you really did lose $25,000 and that's all you saved, and all of a sudden the house you won is now $25,000 more? Nobody wins. You lose, actually.
It's a great point. You said a lot of things there. What you just said about
fast.
What you just said about the cost of waiting is such a great point. So when I was doing a Mortgage 101 class this morning, I was teaching a group of Temple kids about what's going on.
Oh, cute.
And I actually did an example on the screen.
Nice.
If you purchased a home in Northern Liberties, which is a big area that we service, from 2020, and the cost of waiting between doing that in between doing it now and 3 years from now. And these are stats. These are true metrics from services that actually grab their data from the NAR and other different organizations. you would lose about $73,000 on a $500,000 property if the cost of waiting for 3 years between the equity that you're losing, meaning the appreciation, and the money that you'd be paying down in your mortgage.
Okay. And so 2 points to that. One is like, I'm not an accountant, but a lot of people forget there are a lot of perks to buying. You do get a write-off when you purchase the house, that one-time write-off when you do buy it. I don't think that has changed.
There are a lot of tax benefits to purchasing. There are a lot of tax benefits
to owning real estate. You can take part of your mortgage as a deduction in your insurance, and any improvements, you can write off a part of it. If you have a home office, you can do that as well. And then, maybe there are some people that are listening to this, at least I hope, that are like, all right, that sounds great, guys. I would love a house, but like, what are the programs that you can offer someone? Let's say they're a physician. Let's say they've got student debt. I mean, let's be clear. It's 2024.
Yeah.
Almost 2025.
Almost 2025.
I was like, what year is it?
Yeah.
And, student debt in general, especially here in the Philly and the mainline area, we're a meds and ed city where it's very likely that somebody is going to be burdened with some variation of debt.
Yeah.
What are the programs people can use? Where do you see people having success? Tell me a little bit more about that.
A lot of people think that becoming a first-time homebuyer or achieving home ownership is very difficult. And truthfully, it's not.
Agreed.
The biggest hurdle that most first-time homebuyers face are funds to close.
Right.
So a lot of first-time homebuyers, when they're just starting off, they don't have a lot of money in the bank. So they're going to take advantage of first-time homebuyer programs. So typically, if they're buying in Philadelphia area or the counties, they're going to be looking at anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000, for their first homes if they're an established professional. And there are programs now where you can actually get most of your closing costs covered if you make under a certain income.
Okay, so let's take this up a notch, and I agree with you on that statement. So I think there was a stat that came out like a week ago that was from a survey, the Apollo, I think it was consulting group, Compass released this to us last week, and it was like the average first-time buyer was spending at least $1 million on a house nationally. I mean, that's a significant amount of money. So if somebody is spending that kind of money, can they still take advantage of the programs you're referring to?
Well, it just depends. So there are doctor loans for physicians that are currently either in residency or they've graduated and they're either in medical school, they are in residency, fellowship, or they're establishing their practice or just became an employee of a hospital or private practice, whatever. There are programs, doctor loans, that only require 0 down, 3% or 5% down. There is a variety of them, but this was created so that doctors and other professionals can get into homes before they've established their income on a long-term basis and their savings on a long-term basis to be able to put more money down.
Okay, so let's say you're not thinking about a first-time home buyer house. Let's say you're looking at an investment. I mean, we were just talking about this, and I own other real estate. We talk about owning other real estate a lot. I have a lot of investors, developers, builders, all that stuff. And you know what? I just think it's a great option for people to just keep the first house that they have and turn themselves into an investor in some stretch of the imagination, whether you want to build a major portfolio. But let's talk a little bit about how people can acquire more real estate, have less of a financial burden. What programs work for them?
It's a great question. So anyone that has, dipped their toes or has been very successful in real estate will tell you there's a big difference between good debt and bad debt. Right. So bad debt is the credit card debt.
Yeah.
Bad debt is establishing debt that doesn't
lifestyle debt.
It's lifestyle debt. It's something that doesn't appreciate in value. So when you acquire mortgage debt to purchase more real estate, that is actually considered good debt. And you leverage the funds that you have and the assets that you have to purchase more real estate to gain more generational wealth. So if you're looking to become either a first-time investor or you're an established investor, especially, so let's talk about a first-time investor, right?
Yeah.
And you just said, you encourage people to keep their first home.
If they can swing it,
If they can swing it, absolutely. You don't want to get rid of that 2.99 mortgage rate. Why would you want to do that?
I am the real estate agent. You have me in your house. I'm going to tell you every time to keep the real estate as long as it's not keeping you from getting you to your goal.
Yes. If you can afford to keep that home and turn it into a rental property And especially if it's a multi-unit first home, which is it's a nice little house hack that a lot of first-time home buyers take advantage of.
Yeah.
That is the best way to establish yourself to become a real estate investor.
Also, slight plug, I have a great property I'm working on. I'm getting the contract inked hopefully this week in a killer neighborhood. It's a triplex. The rents are solid. The building has been managed beautifully. I mean, it's such a good value. I might buy it myself.
I can't wait to see.
But just thought I'd let everyone know. Anyway.
So let's talk a little bit about a pro tip about doing what we just said, right?
Sure, let's do it.
So there's a way that you can actually leverage your current home to start buying more real estate.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. So homes have appreciated at a very large clip over the last 4 years. We just talked about it, right?
They sure have.
So let's say you bought a home and that home is now worth $150,000 more than when you bought it. Why not maybe get a home equity line of credit that you can leverage to purchase more real estate?
Personal story.
Yes, let's hear it.
I've been talking to you about this a lot.
You have.
I probably call Andrew like once a month. I'm like, I found a house I want to buy. How do I do this? and truly, you know, we're both savvy, but at the end of the day, it follows the same principles. But yes, my house that I own now is one of the greatest assets that I can borrow against. That is going to give me the most freedom and flexibility at a much better interest rate. And it's different than a mortgage. Let's talk about a line of credit in your house or a HELOC.
Absolutely.
What does it really mean?
So a lot of people, so a home equity line of credit is essentially a credit card, a credit line secured by your home. Okay. Just like a credit card, you don't pay for it unless you actually use it. So let's say you've gotten a $100,000 home equity line of credit and you want to use $50,000 of it to do a project, to buy another property, whatever it might be. You're only going to be paying interest on that $50,000.
Right.
Now the interest rate is variable, so it does go up and down with the federal prime rate. But it's a tactic and a really big leverage point that a lot of people use when they're trying to take advantage of an opportunity, or it's also good to have in case of an emergency.
Right. I think it's a really savvy way. And I think that sometimes lines of credit can get a bad rap because this also contributed to the downfall of 2008. But I want to reiterate to everybody that 2008 was because they really weren't verifying income.
Yeah, there were a lot of practices
factors
in place. Like every Johnny and Harry and Sarah next door was trying, to use, lines of credit to purchase other homes without verifying income and becoming an investor without really understanding what they were doing.
And I would also say too, like, we're in a day and age where it's incredibly easy to get information. And you still need to have the right people in your corner. Hopefully that's us. If it's not, we obviously have experts everywhere, but sometimes I look at some of these things on Instagram, on TikTok, and I'm like, oof, this feels like a trap.
It feels a little irresponsible.
A little irresponsible. That's right. Everybody's got a platform.
But we have shown that the system has worked now. The changes, the regulations, the things that have come in have actually worked because our foreclosure rates are barely anything now. And it's been that way for a while.
Yeah.
So clearly lenders are doing their due diligence and we're doing a good job vetting clients to make sure that we're not putting buyers in a bad position to default.
That's actually a really good point. Guys, I don't know if you can pull up. I would love to see what the current stats are for homes that are currently or the rate of foreclosure or there was a statistic that came out through Keeping Current Matters, which is an excellent source for me.
It's a great follow.
And there was a statistics that came out that was basically like, I don't know, it's like half of mortgage owners, like half of homeowners have a mortgage, which was staggering because if only half of them have a mortgage, I forget what the accurate specific number is. That means like the rate at which foreclosures is going to occur is very, very low. And the reason for that is because the values of these homes have gone up so significantly. You really only run into a foreclosure problem when somebody is drastically overpaid for their house and they're having a financial crisis.
Yeah. Or a life event.
A life event.
Yeah. And now a lot of lenders and banks have established protocols and ways in which to help them through those difficult times. I
just navigated this with a seller of mine. He called me, just kind of going through a hard time, the normal life stuff. And he said to me, I got a letter from the bank. And I'm like, we're going to figure it out and you're going to be fine. And I was really impressed with this bank who I will I won't disclose this just because, I don't know, private info, but they really want to work with people. And I also knew that the amount that he owed on the property was going to be, he was going to be able to sell this at such a significant profit. He made money.
Yeah.
Even though he was at risk of being foreclosed on, he walked away with a significant amount of money. I was like, good on him.
Let's also give you a pretty big shout out on that, because I mean, how many real estate agents go above and beyond for their clients years after closing? You clearly are the trusted advisor for your clients, because clearly they feel comfortable coming to you in all different circumstances.
I hope so.
So how many people go above and beyond like you to actually help them through a difficult situation? The answer is not many.
Well, look, I think the industry, your industry, mine, I'm sure there are other facets of this business that get slammed, but at the end of the day, this is a relationship-based business, and I only build my business, and you only build your business when we do right by people.
Always.
That's it. That's end of story.
I mean, that's the name of life, isn't it?
What was the statistic here? So the rate of foreclosures in the United States in 2024 has been fluctuating, with some states seeing increases while others have seen decreases. Can
we get a national average on this?
Yeah. This is from the internet.
I mean, look at that, Steph.
So
0.13 of filings.
Okay, wait. So the first half of 2024, the national average for foreclosures, foreclosure filings was 0.13, not even 1% of housing units. So it was like, or 1 in every 794 properties. I don't really know what that means, actually, but
that's not a lot.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and compare this to, like pre-pandemic, probably, like what the average numbers were in 2019. And I think one missing component about the appreciation of real estate here is, I always like to think of the real estate market as you have, aspirational buyers, move up buyers, and you have buyers that move out of need. And during the pandemic, a lot of these aspirational buyers are like, well, if it works, great. An aspirational buyer to me is someone who's like, well, you know what? I really love the house with the pool, or maybe I do an extra bedroom. And the numbers and the product were aligned. And we pulled forth so many buyers in that timeline. And at the same time, all these people had entered the marketplace because they realized that they were just squeezed. And so their timelines got moved up, which obviously we all felt like we were in this pressure cooker, but that didn't start in 2020. So I started in 2018.
Yeah, I'd love to touch base.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit. So there's been comparisons, or there's been fears that now, because home values have appreciated so much, are we going to have another economic meltdown?
Ooh, let's talk about it.
It's a great topic. So the answer is no, because our appreciation is being established on real metrics. We have a supply and demand issue that has been created partially because during the pandemic, we now have created the second largest demographic to the baby boomers that we currently have in society. So what does that mean?
Largest. No, the millennial demographic right now that is buying homes is the largest demographic. Household formation.
Yes, that's what we're talking about. Household formations, which is people that have gotten married, that have had a child, 80% of which those people want to purchase a home.
Or maybe just two people that move in together. Or someone like myself, a single woman that just buys a house, that is no longer living with parents.
Yes.
Can be defined differently. And we're also seeing an unprecedented amount of single women.
I think we're seeing an unprecedented amount of single people.
Yes.
In general.
I think we should bring back like college living, where we just all buy a building and live dorm style. Could be fun.
It could be fun.
My girlfriends and I talk about that all the time. You can come. You can live on the boys' floor. It's fine.
Yeah, with showers on both sides.
You can come too.
But going back to establishing why we're not going to be in the same predicament, the same situation that we were when the economy. Go ahead.
No, keep going.
Okay, when we had the economic recession, lenders are evaluating and lending on better practices now.
Sure.
As you can tell by the foreclosure statistics. Values are appreciating at a clip because of, we can argue that maybe these houses were undervalued.
Yeah.
We can certainly make that argument.
Definitely.
Especially in Philadelphia, because we're such an interesting city compared to other major metropolitan areas. We still have a lot of affordable housing. Which is why we attract a lot of people to go to school here and establish their lives here after they graduate.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of people that come from New York and actually, establish their homes here because it's so affordable, and either take the train, or now since the pandemic, a lot of them are working at least on a hybrid schedule.
Sure.
Some are remote fully, some are a little bit hybrid, but Philadelphia establishes an affordable market that still has a major, amazing city that you can eat well in. You can do a lot of cultural stuff. Great sports town, obviously, very passionate.
Birds.
Go Birds. And it really provides an awesome environment for people that are looking for affordable housing.
Look at that sales pitch there. That was pretty good.
It's just the truth.
Yeah, but we live it. So
we do live it.
It's real.
We do live it.
And I will also echo so many of that too, talking about Philadelphia at large. I mean, you're 20 minutes from the city to some of the most affluent suburbs. And affluent to me is where you can send your kids to the public school system, have access to incredible healthcare, lifestyle. We have parks, trails, activities that really enrich families.
Yeah.
This has always been a great place I was born and raised in the area, as were you.
Yeah.
And I also have noticed in my the last 5 years, really, I've been doing a ton of work with buyers relocating from all parts of the country.
So have I.
Colorado, Washington State, California, Florida, southern states.
We had a client.
We've had many
that
clients.
transitioned from California.
Yeah. And I asked these guys, why are you moving here? To be somewhat closer to family. It's so affordable. I can do this. I can do that. Climate change. Yeah. And I actually expect some of what I perceive in the future, the need for people to move might be politically motivated in some regard.
Oh, it's been politically motivated for a long time now. I mean, during the pandemic, we saw loads of people that were moving from certain states to other states to either for political reasons, partially, and economic reasons, partially.
And another thing that, I fear, and it makes me really sad. It actually makes me want to get more involved in some capacity, but I really believe we are going to be seeing a harder insurance environment. I mean, I haven't seen too much of this here in our market, but if you are in an area is here in Philly.
No, not in Philly, because I own a couple properties in Florida.
Well,
so I've seen some changes, and I do business in Florida as well.
And you think about it, and you're like, okay, so Philly, pretty decent climate. We had a little bit of a warm spring, warm fall, but I'm not complaining. It is quite brisk outside today.
Very brisk,
but I like it.
I'm glad one of us does. Not me.
But yeah, I mean, there's so much here, and so with that being said, to put a bow on this is, we have an incredibly large demand to the point where, if I could give you an analogy, I would be filling up a cup that's just overflowing at warp speed, and your whole house is submerged in water. That's the housing market.
Yeah.
There is not enough inventory for everybody. I caution everyone when I say this, because that doesn't mean that you can put your house on the market and expect it to sell in 20 seconds. People are savvy. Incredibly savvy with all the technology that we have out there. People are looking at their bottom lines. People are making true lifestyle decisions. I have clients right now that are searching in such broad ranges, and they are saying, great, if we're in this range, we're not going on the family vacation. We're not going to make this investment at the shore, maybe. We are going to buy this house for this much money, and vice versa.
Yeah, let me piggyback on that.
Go ahead.
Because again, it's another great point. There's so much information available out there now. And I mean, you can ask ChatGPT pretty much anything you want and get an answer.
We're good friends.
Yes. So establishing a great team, if you're looking to purchase real estate, establishing a great team, which to me is the key to life in any which way and in every capacity, especially in real estate, a great real estate agent, someone that can help you navigate the financing of what you're actually looking to do, is so pivotal to your success. And being able... So again, let's talk about what it looks like being a buyer right now in this market. So you just brought up a great point with regards to supply and demand, and what it actually takes for a buyer to secure a property in this incredibly competitive environment.
Okay, so the answer is depends on where you're looking, because each market has its own pulse and heartbeat and nuance. And I like to say now that like on paper and on Zillow or on your app or the stories from your friends is only this much of the info.
Yeah.
The rest is, okay, what is the nitty gritty, right? We're the ones that are representing the buyers and sellers, and
we're the soldiers on the ground.
We know the gossip behind each sale.
Yes, we do.
So if you are a buyer right now that is looking to be on the main line or any part of the Philadelphia suburbs,
yes,
you need to get started early. You need to be able to answer a handful of questions. A non-negotiable for me is you got to meet me in person. We have to go through the process and make sure all the decision makers are available and are very clear, because I'll tell you, this is not like, let's go house shopping. This is, I have a goal. You want to work with me to help you get to a goal? Cool. You want to maybe just dip your toe in the water? Here for that as well. But it's my job to make sure you understand exactly what the process feels like. So that's the first step. The second step is I really lean on you to help them understand what the financial levers they can pull are. Running scenarios. You can't do anything. You shouldn't even really be looking online until you can answer a couple of these questions. What is your timeline? What is your budget?
Yeah.
And what are you comfortable with? Not even like talking about the house. Okay, so then let's make sure that we're putting ourselves in the situation. So I like to ask this question of all of my clients is, hey, if we were standing in the perfect house, would we know we're standing in it? Like, are we clear about what that house looks like? All right.
It's an amazing point, and I think that's one of the things that differentiates you from a lot of competition. Steph is a process person, okay? Which honestly, it's a key attribute to being successful in a relational business.
Yeah.
You have to be process driven, and you have to put your buyers in the best possible position to be successful. And you do that as good as any agent I've ever seen.
Well, thank you. And I will say I control the process, but the buyers control the decisions. And you're going to look to me.
That's a great line.
Well, but it's true, because it's not my money, and it's not my inspection, and it's not my house, and it's not my choice. It is always my job to advise you and to give you insight. And I will always give you my opinion if that's what you want. And so when we do find the right house, we are going to be thorough, and we're going to ask ourselves, like, how bad do you want the house? What do you have to do to secure it?
So let's talk about that, because the key to actually being able to secure a home over the last 2 to 3 years has been, how do I make a winning offer, and what does that look like?
I almost want to gatekeep this one. No, I'm kidding.
Sharing is caring. Well, but so I can speak from a lending standpoint, but it goes hand in hand with working with the real estate agent.
Okay, so this is different for everybody, but I would say that the gamut is, you have a couple of levers you can pull. I will never, ever, ever tell anybody that they should ever waive a home inspection unless they want to. And I will never tell anybody to waive their mortgage unless they're comfortable and they want to. But those are two levers that you can always pull. And if you are uncomfortable with either of those, there are other ways you can be creative. For example, I have an inspector. I have a handful of inspectors that I trust with my life who have done properties for myself, my family, most of my clients, that will come and look at a home in advance to give you a competitive edge. And maybe that gives you the confidence to waive the inspection. Maybe it gives you the confidence to say to the seller, I still would like an inspection, but I'm going to accept the first X amount of dollars in any repairs, just to tell the seller you're not nickel and diming them.
And you have that in writing.
You have it in writing.
To make the seller feel better about it.
You have it in writing.
Yeah.
The second would be waiving your financing. And this is something I think we could do a whole short on, Dylan, is just because you're waiving your financing doesn't mean you're not getting a mortgage. Like the amount of misinformation out there about people buying in cash. And yes, 33%, this is a true statistic that we have tracked in my office. As of last quarter, like 33% of all offers that are coming in are true cash. We are in the process of seeing the greatest transfer of wealth. I don't want to discount that, but you can still be competitive with people that are showing up in cash by waiving your financing. Again, if that's comfortable to you, with the confidence of a really good lender who can then do a couple of things to make sure that you're comfortable with this. And, I'm going to butcher all this, but, there are a handful of steps in this process, like the appraisal. which is evaluation from the bank, which is making sure that you have a backup plan if you might need to come out of pocket a little bit more. I mean, this is just part of the strategy. And, I would ask you, if I'm representing a buyer, right? And I'm like, Andrew, shit, my buyer, they want this, right? And we are strong and solid.
Yeah.
But the other offer I just was told is just true cash. Make me as competitive as possible. What does that look like?
Such a great question.
Oh,
so
it's a real one.
And happens all the time.
Yeah.
So because we go up against cash all the time, and if you have a savvy listing agent that's representing the seller, he or she will present the offers in a way that is going to create clarity for the seller as well. So if there's an offer that's in cash, that might be for a little bit less, and then there's an offer with financing. How do we make the financing offer become more palatable, become more powerful, more real? Okay. And I think it's a great topic to talk about.
And that's where I come in and you come in to sell that listing agent your offer, our offer.
Yes.
Because everyone gets lazy and everyone gets overwhelmed.
Yes.
When there's 10 offers and everyone puts them in a pile and says cash, mortgage. And I'm like, but I'm not really a mortgage, right? How do I get you over here?
Yeah. So part of, and this is on your side of the transaction, but it also feeds into mine, escalation clauses. Which is something where in this kind of environment, that's establishing that you're willing to go up to a certain number above the sales price of the home in order to secure it. Where that comes in on my end is I need to make sure I know how much money you have available for this, because as a bank, as a major lender, we lend on the appraised value of the asset. So whatever the asset is, whatever the value comes back of that the fair market value of that asset, that's the number that we're going to be lending on. If the contract price is higher than that, then in many cases, the buyer has to make up that gap. Okay. So we have to make sure that we're educating the buyers on what that looks like. And one of the great things about you, Steph, is when you're making an offer, you will tell me, Andrew, I think that the value might not be there based on the comps. Where I can see it comes in, it might come in between this and this. Let's prepare the client to see what that looks like for them.
So to unpack this a little bit more, another tool that you can use, which I have my thoughts on, and I think it depends on the conversation that I have with the agent before I recommend this, is using a document called the price escalation addendum, which gives a buyer an opportunity to increase their purchase by an increment. And I always do fun numbers, never an even number, like something maybe like $2,018.
And why is that?
Because it stands out and it'll inch you up. And so when someone says, I don't want to get into a bidding war, I go, great. You're just going to close it like this. And you're going to offer as much as you feel like the house is worth to you. And you're going to feel comfortable when I call you the next day and say you didn't get the house.
As much as you're comfortable doing.
As much as you're comfortable doing. I'm going to tell you what I think the house is worth. Andrew's going to help you figure out where we're going to get this delta from, like he was sharing. If the house does not appraise at the number, let's say you want to buy a $2 million house, you want it really bad. Great. What does that mean to you? You want to go to 2.4? I think it's worth 2.2. You're coming out an extra $200K in cash. We're going to make sure you can figure that out. I know these are big numbers. But back to the point of how do we bridge the gap of cash versus not? Well, you've been incredibly successful by getting my clients through what we call underwriting. So there's no question mark. So we can say to a savvy seller, and they are savvy sellers in this market, and say, yeah, well, there's no risk. Here's the letter. Might as well be cash. And most sellers don't care where the money comes from as long as they know it's going to show up.
So let's talk about the difference between a pre-approval and a mortgage commitment.
Pre-approval, pre-qualification, because I keep getting this one.
Yes, pre-qualification, pre-approval. I mean, lenders can define it differently. To me, they're the same thing. A pre-approval letter is basically a letter from the lender stating that the client is able to get approved for this amount of a loan based on this sales price.
When I'm representing a seller, I always like to ask the lender, when I get the pre-approval, has the credit been run? Have you seen verification of income? Have you collected W-2s?
So let's talk about that. So whenever a client of ours, so first, let's establish the difference between a pre-approval and a mortgage commitment.
Let's do it.
So one of the competitive advantages that I try to use and offer with all my clients is I want to get that loan fully approved by the underwriter, which is the decision maker by us, the lender, to say, okay, we have reviewed your credit, your income, your assets, and based on all of those things, you are fully approved based on this purchase price, this loan size, and here you go, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. You can go make an offer on a property that is within these parameters.
Yeah.
And this is essentially telling the listing agent and the seller that I am fully approved. And what this allows you to also do is close much faster, because all I need is appraisal and title now. And sometimes I might not even need an appraisal if we get a waiver. So you're making an offer with a full approval in hand and the ability to close quickly if the seller is inspired and if that is what they want to do.
Well, you just touched on one thing, which is timeline, right? And to be able to say, I'm a flexible buyer. I can do a myriad of things. You just let me know when you need your money, basically.
That's part of making a winning offer. Yeah. It's establishing what the seller wants and being able to hone in on that and making your offer stand out.
I always like to ask the listing agent, tell me what your seller's perfect offer looks like.
Yeah.
What is I'm giving you a wand. Tell me what it looks like. I'll tell you if I can make it happen. And at least then my buyers know.
No, it's a great point. And with regards to when the offer is actually made, as the lender, I actually call the listing agents,
right?
And I tell the listing agent, it's not just an email, it's not just a text. I call the listing agent and say, hey, I want to introduce myself. If I don't already know the agent, I want to let you know we have great buyers. I've already reviewed their income, their assets, their credit. They are gold. They're good to go. I already collected all of their documentation. I'm flexible with timeline. Anything that you need from me, the seller wants to speak to me to make them feel better about it, I'd be more than happy to talk or text with them anytime. And on top of that, if we actually do the underwriting up front, I give a $10,000 guarantee to the seller if we do not close due to anything other than appraisal, title, or inspection issues.
I mean, which
is out of our purview.
It's awesome. It's so awesome. And I think in a market today where people are so anxious and they're on the edge, right? And especially as a seller, I mean, really, when you put your house in the market, you get that first offer, and for some reason it does not close. I mean, the statistics do show that if you have a failed deal, your house will be on the market, and knowing that there isn't going to be something that goes wrong is imperative to everybody.
Absolutely. I think part of what we do as professionals is take away the anxiety as much as possible for our clients
and foresee the hurdles so we can work through them.
Which we've both seen a ton of hurdles.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We really have. So let's kind of flip this. We had a conversation which was incredibly helpful for a seller, where you came in really handy. Where I've got a seller, and we really are trying to think of a different angle on how do I pitch this house? How do I put myself in the shoes of the buyer? How are they looking at this monthly payment, right? Everyone's looking at a monthly payment right now. In certain markets, people are really asking themselves, is this worth losing my current 2.875 rate for? Is this enough of a move up? How do I solve this problem? We were talking about how you can basically structure a loan to bring a rate down to a really competitive number.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you've kind of helped on the listing side, even though
absolutely
you typically work with the buyers, but
yeah, in a rising rate environment, that means that the mortgage payment that people could afford when, during 20 and 21 has now essentially doubled.
Yeah, it's wild.
So affordability has been a major issue. And on top of that, home values have continued to appreciate and increase. Yeah. So how do we help buyers that want to buy homes but are a little scared or nervous about affordability? So let's talk about that. So one of the strategies can be potentially looking at an ARM option, which is an adjustable rate mortgage that there's multiple terms. Typically it's a 5 or 7 or 10-year ARM that sometimes have a little bit of a lower interest rate for that set amount of time. That's one of the strategies that I've used. And
I will say one interesting data point is I think it was the National Association of Realtors came out and said that people really aren't staying in their homes. This has gone up, but
5 to 7 years.
5 to 7 years, but they're staying in their homes longer, but people aren't staying in their mortgages for that long.
Yeah.
So a 7-year ARM is actually a really great way to get yourself in the door, especially if you are someone in our demographic that is foreseeing more income coming in.
Yeah.
That gives you more flexibility to get into the house before it appreciates.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You only get one opportunity to negotiate the sales price of the home. That's it.
That's a very good point.
One opportunity. So the important thing is, what price point am I going to get into this house?
Yeah.
Because interest rates are cyclical. They go up and down historically, but it's always been.
Right.
You know what's not cyclical? Real estate appreciating. There's never been a 10-year period that real estate has not appreciated.
Boom. That's a nugget. Woo.
Interest rates fluctuate up and down, and you typically will have, I can't say always because situations change in life, but typically you will always have an opportunity to refinance an interest rate.
Right.
So if life changes, if another income is added, if another income is lost, if you have changed careers and now your potential for income growth has massively increased, what does that look like as far as the financing goes, and making sure that leveraging your power with financing will allow you to establish more generational wealth moving forward? Every situation is subjective.
Yeah.
My job specifically is to help people navigate not just the home buying process and how it affects them right now, but how it affects them in the future as well, and what their goals are with regards to where are they going to be in 3 to 5 years. Do they see themselves purchasing a second home, a Poconos house, a shore home? Do they want to buy an investment property? Do they have an elderly parent that they're going to have to care for?
Yeah.
Are they newborn? Are they new parents? Are their kids going to college? I have parents where their children are just born, and I'm showing them how they can utilize and leverage an investment property to help pay for a college education, which has historically increased exponentially.
Right.
So there are a lot of strategies that go into purchasing real estate.
I think too. So I've been selling real estate for 13 years, and I get some questions about, well, maybe not questions, but statements like, my financial advisor said this, and I'm getting like old school stuff, an old school approach. And I'll say that a really good financial advisor and a really good financial component to your picture is going to really help this process too. So
absolutely,
if people can't come to the table knowing what their current true output is, like what they spend on a monthly basis or yearly basis, I would hone that number in and have a conversation with your financial advisor and make sure that you are comfortable and talking about your goals and not being overly conservative to the point where it's going to be a detriment to getting into homeownership.
It goes back to the key theme that we've been talking about, establishing, the right team around you, and seeking as much information as possible to make the best decision that you can for you and your family
and your goals. Yeah,
absolutely.
I've witnessed a couple of people, and I think everyone needs to do what they're comfortable with, but it's hard sometimes. I think that we try to plan the best we can. I'm a huge planner, as you know, and I'm.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. And I think at the end of the day,
and a runner, from what I've heard.
Yes, I run a little bit. It's like we can't plan for everything, but
right.
Sometimes you do have to ask yourself, like, what do I need right now? What's the right thing for my family? If it's getting your family into a house where each of your growing children can have a room because that's the right thing for your family, like, okay.
Yeah.
Not every year is going to be a year where you're saving or where you're, progressing in some regard, but I've had that conversation myself as I've purchased real estate.
Yeah.
Just a note.
Yeah. And going into that note, you don't have to start this process out of fear. One of the cool things that I do is I only do a soft credit check when I get an application that comes in.
Okay.
So let me establish the difference. Okay. So a soft credit check would be the same thing as you going on Credit Karma or Experian or your Discover app and seeing what your credit score is.
Sure.
So when I do a soft credit check, the difference is it has no adverse impact to your credit score whatsoever. But what it does, it allows me to do a full mortgage consultation that I see all 3 credit bureaus, all of your credit, your scores and everything. And if I pulled a hard pull the same day, I would see the same scores.
Okay, wait, we need to, for the people in the back, does getting your credit pulled, a hard pull from a mortgage company, fuck up your score?
The answer is it can affect your score a tiny bit.
Okay.
If you run it with one company, maybe 10 points. However, if you run it with multiple over and over a, let's say, a 15 to 30 day time frame, it can absolutely affect your score in a way that can be negative.
Okay, because I heard like you have like a 30-day window.
Yeah, there's information out there. Some say 15, some say 30. So
what's the best practice? So like because this really is a common question I get, and people say to me, I don't want my stuff spread all over the internet. I don't want to get,
The best practice is to use a lender that will only do a soft credit check. And only have to do a hard one once you're actually under contract or ready to make an offer on a property.
Dylan, good one.
And then we are good to go. So the soft credit check is, let me make sure I'm clear on this. The soft credit check is the same credit report as a hard credit pull.
Okay.
So when I give information based on that soft credit check, it would be the same exact thing as if I did a hard one. But what it does is it allows me to give you the information that you need. So even if you're looking to buy now, 6 months, a year, or you're just trying to figure out where you're at, doing this consultation and this soft credit check is for informational purposes.
Right.
It allows you to see where you're at. I just did a Zoom call with all the graduates from PCOM, that are graduating medical school and are trying to establish, where they're going to be placed. You do a lot of doctors, right?
Yeah.
So, where are they going to be placed in what state? If they're going to be here, what does buying a home look like? And I go through what all that looks like for them. And I only do, again, a soft credit check so that they can see, okay, I have this much in student loan debt. This is how this is treated. This is what you can afford based on what's going on right now and what your salary is going to be when you graduate.
Yeah. Yeah.
What we didn't talk about is becoming a real estate investor and the certain loans that are available, and the self-employed aspect of this. How now our population, a growing sector of our population, is becoming some sort of self-employed, whether you're a subcontractor, getting a 1099,
right,
or you've started your own business as an LLC, an S corp. There's a statistic, and I don't know if we can pull it up real quick, that by the year 2030, we're going to have, I think, like 45% or some sort of a major number where we're going to be a very self-employed sort of country.
It is crazy to me.
Yeah, we didn't really grow up that way. Certainly neither did our parents.
Okay, so you're talking about a very significant amount of the population is going to be perceived as independent contractors.
Or are already self-employed. So what does it look like navigating that?
Self-employed, so that's 1099 people.
Or nothing. Or nothing. Yeah.
Like cash under the mattress. Just kidding. Or versus W-9. And W-9 is viewed differently than 1099. And you and I have worked with a couple of people from Pete, that was going to be transitioning. I've had some people come to me and they're like, in the middle of the home buying process, and they're like, oh, by the way, I just quit my job. I'm like, don't do that. And it's not a good idea. It's fine if you want to change jobs in the middle of your home search from W-2 to W-2 or 1099 to W-2, but don't do 1099, baby, because in the middle of this, because you need 2 years of tax returns or you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. So while you're in the middle of trying to purchase a home, you cannot go from W-2 to self-employed. So
Dylan, we're going to do another little short here.
Okay.
Let's talk about the best practices for people to follow when it comes to employment and how a bank looks at them during the home buying journey.
Okay.
What are the absolute no's? What are the do not do's? Stop for sure.
Yes. That's such a loaded question.
Well, don't go buy a yacht.
So if you're a W-2 employee, okay, that means we know what your salary is.
Yeah, right? That's great.
You know what your gross income is.
Super easy.
So a cool example that I just used this morning, if you make $100,000 a year, okay, that's $8,333 a month.
Woo.
Okay. If you have, let's say, $600 worth of debt on your credit report, meaning between car loans, student loans, credit cards, those three things, okay? What we do, the way that the lender looks at you is we take your base salary monthly, because it's not about how much you make yearly, it's about what you make monthly.
Right.
Okay. We multiply that times 45%.
Okay.
It's sort of an industry standard. It could be a little different, but 45% of your monthly income, okay? Subtract the monthly debts that you have only on your credit report. So not your cell phone, not your Netflix, not your car insurance, only what's on your credit report.
Nice.
And whatever number is left over after you subtract those monthly bills from that 45% number, that is the amount of mortgage payment, let me rephrase, housing payment that you can be approved for.
And this is why a really good tip that I give people, and I know you do too, is instead of saying, how much can I borrow from a bank? A better way to ask is, what are you comfortable with from a monthly payment standpoint?
Steph, that's such a great point, because everyone wants to know what sales price, what purchase price can I afford? And I know that's how we all think, because we're on Zillow, we're on different websites. Oh, can I buy a $600,000 house?
Right.
The question that we have to answer for you is, what monthly payment are you approved for?
Right.
And then we can work backwards to figure out what sales price, how much in taxes, how much, if you're looking to buy a condo, how much that HOA or condo fee plays into your monthly payment. There's a lot of nuance to it. So the better question is, how much monthly payment am I comfortable with? And how much can I actually afford and get approved for? So that's a great point.
And it's always a good idea. I always advise my clients to ask you, what is the max you can afford? Because of the tight market we're in, it's valuable for you to understand early in the process before you start guessing.
Yes.
You should just know and have clarity. And actually, that saves a lot of people time, because I might say to them, look, for you to find the house you really want, you're going to be here. And what I'm hearing you say to my buyer maybe is, that's uncomfortable. So what's the point of buying a house you don't like and you wouldn't necessarily want to improve it to your liking? Let's just wait.
Yeah.
If that fits. And we can't predict anything, but that's a conversation about process, what you're comfortable with. But the power of having that information up front versus you've lost out now on the fourth house.
Yeah.
Is really just, it's so much better for everybody.
Yeah, I think we try to take the guesswork away.
Totally.
So my job is to tell you the maximum you can be approved for.
Okay.
That does not mean this is what you should go for.
Right.
Okay. So the maximum you can be approved for are the guidelines that the lender are willing to lend you the money for. Okay. That being said, we are basing this on gross income. We don't know your budget. We don't know your other monthly bills, what your other obligations are. You want to make sure that you establish a healthy budget for yourself so that you're not house poor. Okay. Yeah. Now, just because I tell you the maximum payment you can be approved for, that's just for you. And if you're buying the house by yourself, that's for you. If you know that a partner, or you're going to have income, or maybe
you're renting a room out,
other means, whatever, if you know, or let's say, in 6 months, 3 months, you're going to be getting a massive raise, or you're going to be getting commission structure, inheritance, all kinds of stuff, and you know that you can afford it, that's a different story. Sure. But if you're on a fixed income, let's say, I get a lot of retirees now that come to me where they're retired, their income is fixed, it's limited. They are not the people that want to go to the maximum allowable mortgage payment.
Right.
Because life only gets more expensive, and
sure.
the expenses never really lessen as life goes on.
Yeah. So
we want to make sure that we're putting them in the right position so that they can live their best life, for the rest of their lives.
So we talked about the requirements from a bank's perspective about lending, the 45% LTV, loan to value,
debt to income ratio,
45% of the debt to income ratio.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more. Is this applicable to all structures, or is this for jumbo? Is this for conforming?
So it's a great question. So there are multiple type of mortgage programs that people can qualify for. Mm-hmm. So the most popular ones are conventional loans.
What does that mean?
An FHA loan. So a conventional loan is where you're buying a property that is less. Well, the maximum loan limit has just gone up to right around $806,000.
Which means
that you can buy a property for $830,000 and only put 3% down.
And it also is a testament to how expensive housing has gotten.
Yeah,
like it used to be like 5.
It's gone up exponentially year after year. Like so just to give you perspective, in 2024, the limit was $766,500. Right.
And we thought that was a lot.
Yeah. So just in 1 year, it's gone up, 40-something thousand.
And it's preferential to use conventional conforming loan because it follows pretty predictable guidelines.
Yes, very predictable guidelines.
Once you get above that.
Yes. Then we get into jumbo territory.
And jumbo territory is a little more.
Yeah. So it's any loan size greater than the conforming loan limit. So typically on jumbo loans, so let's say you're buying a house for, let's say $1.2 million. Okay, just to give you context. Okay, most programs require that you put 20% down. Okay, there are some programs that allow you to put 10% down, but primarily it's going to be a 20% down loan. Mm-hmm. Okay, the guidelines for jumbo loans are a bit different than for conforming conventional loans.
And why is that?
That's because the bank, the lender that is giving you the loan, has established their own criteria of what they're comfortable with. It's not established by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, which is what conventional loans are based on. Okay. Yep. So the guidelines are established by the actual lender itself. So for instance, so the debt to income ratio allowable on a Fannie Mae or a Freddie Mac loan can be up to 49.99%. That is the absolute maximum. Okay. On a on a jumbo loan, typically it's going to be below 43 or below 41, depending on the program that you best qualify for. So it's really important, again, to choose a lender that has extensive knowledge in all the programs available and what's going to fit your particular situation. Because you might want to buy a $1.2 million house, but you might not be able to qualify for a jumbo loan. But maybe for $50,000 more out of pocket, you can qualify for a conventional loan, which will then work for you and your family. So how do I get that extra $50,000? And that's part of the strategy call that we have with our clients. Am I able to get money from my 401k? Am I able to get a $50,000 gift from my parents, from my grandparents, from my uncle? Like, there are multiple ways that you can get funds for down payment and closing costs, and gift money and retirement funds are two that most people are not aware of.
And they come with limited risk. Like, we are not advising people to borrow against a 401k, but there is more flexibility there if you pay it back without penalty.
Yeah, you can. So you typically could take up to 50% of your vested interest in a 401k. Every 401k company is different. Sure. You can take a loan against it. You can take a draw. You can actually withdraw from it. There are hardship and there are housing programs that a lot of 401k companies offer. So it is a viable option, because what I said to you earlier, this isn't necessarily your demographic, but a lot of first-time home buyers that are operating and purchasing, a lower priced home, the biggest struggle that they have are funds to close.
Right.
So, let's say that they don't have a lot of liquid money, but they've been at their company for 10 years.
Right.
They might have 40, 50,000 in that 401k, and that might be their only opportunity to purchase a home, to take a loan or to take a withdrawal from that 401k to be able to purchase a home.
I think this is such a good point, because, we've had inflation. Things have been expensive. Things just cost more. Like life is expensive. And
sure is.
Sometimes there is another way. The two of us are very good at thinking outside of the box. Andrew is incredibly savvy at finding alternative ways to find cash, be strategic in the assets you have. I will get you the house, undoubtedly.
Undoubtedly.
I think that's a word. But, this is truly why working with, and I have a couple of questions here, so I'm teeing you up, but this is why working with a local lender that I've had experience with. And I always advise people too, like, if there's somebody that you have, family money with, sure, you should have the conversation with whomever, but there are so many nuances. There's
so much nuance
that go with this, that Andrew's relationship as a lender, as a broker, you don't keep the mortgage in times that it's not appropriate. Like, you house mortgages, but you have relationships with how many other?
So I'm a mortgage banker. So yeah. CrossCountry is the number one retail lender in Pennsylvania and in the country.
Yeah.
So we have
short plug there.
Short
we'll
plug.
Tag them in this.
So we literally have every program, or close to every program, under the sun. So we do house and service a lot of the mortgages that we originate.
Right.
But we also establish relationships with multiple investors and loan servicing companies that we can then, turn the servicing or turn the loan or broker the loan to, if it's not a product that we offer in-house. My job is to be solutions oriented and driven to make sure that I'm finding the right product for you and placing you in that to give you the best opportunity for success.
So I say to people, sure, if you want to go to 123 Main Street Bank, which I hope that's not a real bank. I'm trying to be neutral here. That's fine, but you're walking into a Marriott that gives you a nice service, but is not necessarily going to have the buffet that the Four Seasons would, where you're going to have, for me, your gluten-free, your smoothies. That's what Andrew has to offer.
Yes.
He's like, what diet are you on? What are your goals? Here's the buffet for you. Here's the buffet for you. And let's customize it, which is pretty cool.
And it's not comparing apples to apples. When you walk into a major bank or a credit union or a local bank, you're going to have one of their financial either tellers or their financial, whatever we want to call them, financial specialists, bankers, banker one, banker two, however you want to call them. They're going to be the ones to take your application, but they are not for the most part, true mortgage professionals. What they do is they take an application without really understanding exactly what goes into it. They don't collect documentation for the most part. And then you're really just a number, and they'll give you a letter without really verifying anything.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've been on the listing side, and I'm a huge proponent. Like, every buyer should make a choice. Obviously, hopefully you take mine, because I want this process to be easy and successful. There are no kickbacks here. It's just everyone gets to the table with a smile on their face. And I have had the serious stress and displeasure of representing some sellers where the buyer has chosen to work with the cheapest, or their
bank, their big bank,
their bank, or their person. And there's nothing wrong with that until, like, it doesn't matter till it matters.
It matters.
And I'm telling you, some big banks recently, oh, they're my best friend when we're in a bidding war. And then I don't fucking hear from them. Mm-hmm. And it's really unfair to do to the seller. It's really unfair to do to the buyer.
Last time I checked, big banks have hours that they're open and closed, and they're typically closed on weekends. And Steph, when do the majority of buyers make offers?
Oh, geez.
And how many times have you texted or called me at 7, 10, 11 o'clock at night?
Too many that I'm not proud of. But truly, like, I think that is a really important thing, like, to have success in this process, again, is to work with someone that is going to meet the needs of the market. And that's from a real estate agent to a lender to the bank. I want to highlight the good. I don't want to talk about the negative. I don't want to talk about anybody's bad stuff. But yes, real estate is transacted on the off hours. And having success here is working with a lender that's going to answer the phone on Saturday or on a Sunday morning and saying, can you just walk me through this? And I'm not saying that another lender wouldn't, but it is always a little risky if you're not taking the advice from an agent that you're working with.
For sure. And Steph, let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Because you represent a lot of sellers as well as buyers.
50-50 my business, yeah.
Right. So let's say you make a deadline for offers to be in by, let's say, Sunday at noon.
Yep.
Just for argument's sake, right? Yeah. How many times have you called a lender on a Sunday afternoon, evening, and they have not answered the phone?
An unfair amount of times to a buyer.
Right.
Yeah.
So I take pride in communication and making sure that I'm giving every single competitive advantage for my client and for my real estate agents that they're representing our clients to win this offer.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how many times when I've picked up the phone or answered a text on a Saturday night, Sunday, I've had agents negotiate deals Friday night as I'm in an Uber to dinner. And I'm answering my text and I'm answering my phone because this is the difference between being able to get a property and not getting a property. And because if that lender did not answer the call from a listing agent on Sunday, and if he did or she did, you might have been more inclined to take their offer. But another lender that did pick up the phone made you feel the warm and fuzzies, and the offers were exactly the same. Which one's your seller going to take?
And it's so hard. I mean, I will just say it's so hard. And I truly believe that things work out the way that they're supposed to. I say this to all of my clients. But it is, at the end of the day, the seller's choice. And sellers get anxious. I've been in this situation many a times. They're like hemming and hawing, like, what do you think? What do you think? Have you heard from the lender? Have you heard from this person? And I would say that is true for everyone involved in these parties. And that is something that we talk about up front if I'm representing a buyer.
Yeah.
And I say, guess what? You want to hear something fun? I was like, how many weddings you guys going to this year? Getting those invites yet? I have. Well, which one's your favorite? Which one of these people is your best friend? The perfect house is coming on the market the day they're getting married. Are you going to the wedding or are you seeing the house? And I'm like, and what's the plan?
Yeah.
And shit happens.
Yes, shit
things
does
happen. And let's get the easy stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
Let's ask the easy questions. What are your hours? When can we communicate? What can we expect? And I do the same thing for my sellers too. Here's what you can expect. Here, you tell me. And real estate never really stops. And it has gotten so much faster with electronic signature, which is not new, but it's faster. Everyone's on every app. I mean, I've been sitting here for how long? How many people have sent me houses at this point? I have way too many text messages.
Yeah.
And you have to expect things to move quickly because of technology.
So now with technology, if a client wants to make an offer, it might take you 15 minutes, 30 minutes to draw up an agreement of sale.
Yeah.
Because you've done so many of them, and email it to them for DocuSign.
Yeah.
You can have an offer in, within 30 minutes to an hour.
It's really.
And literally a signed contract that same night.
Yes. A house could go on the market
and be under contract that night. It just happened to me last Saturday night where I sent a pre-approval that day, that early Saturday. And by 9:30 p.m., I got the email. Congratulations. Here's the agreement of sale. We're looking forward to working with you.
Wow.
And
that's the best. That's the best.
But being available, communicating properly.
Sure.
And this listing agent texted and called me.
Yeah.
And the fact that I responded and I picked up the call.
And you're professional and you're nice. And the one thing, wait, let's tell everyone the story of this. Ooh, this is a good one.
Are you going to make me blush?
I don't know. I'm going to ask you if you're single later. Not for me, for everybody else. Okay. How we started working together. Yeah. So I don't know who's going to be eventually listening to this. Hopefully it's somebody from a TV network and they discover me. But no, Andrew and I have been working with each other for a long time, but I'm a pretty direct. I want no fluff. I like a yes or no answer because there's so much going on already.
Yeah.
And I said, Andrew.
And this is when you were younger in your career.
I was BB. Yeah. I had this great listing. I think I was 20. It was probably 10 years ago. 26 or so.
We both were.
In Ardmore. Great twin. And I got this great offer. You were the mortgage lender on the buyer's deal. They were lovely people. And you called me and you said, hey, I just want to know what I can do to make the deal easy. And I said, don't call me until you have a commitment and I'll see you at settlement. And don't call me.
That's exactly what she said. She said, don't call me. Don't text me. I will see you at closing.
I basically was like, get me what I need to say yes. And
don't fucking bother me.
And I say that jokingly because one, there was no need to interact. And I mean that in the most polite way. It was like Andrew had done such an excellent job of getting me everything I needed. And the buyers were super tight and everything was just really smooth. That there was no need to really dive into anything else. He called me when we got the commitment. I said, call me, walk me through it, make sure I'm not missing something. And we met at settlement and I was like, yeah, you've earned my business. Good job. And you listen because, I think that's also part of it is people need to listen and know if they're going to work well with each other. And yeah. I've been torturing Andrew for 10 years.
Very much so.
Oh my God. So sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm very blessed to call myself your friend.
Yeah. And we are good friends.
We are. And I think it's very important, just like in anything else, it's important to date first. Before we get married, it's important to date and make sure that we know how each other operate. Yeah. I want to learn what works for you. I want to make sure that I'm servicing you because in truth, you're my client as well. So I want to make sure that I am doing my best and communicating with you in your style, in your way, and delivering value to you in the way that works best for you. So that's my job as a lender.
And a lot of the times, like I am the liaison between, gosh, I heard this amazing analogy from I was on like a think tank the other day. Think tank, who says that shit? I was on like a group call and an agent from Texas, she was like, I like to think about real estate like an 8-lane highway. And I'm one of the lanes and like the lender's in a lane. And sometimes I'm in the fast lane. Sometimes I'm in the slow lane. It just kind of depends on what lane we're in. And so that really is true. And so like sometimes we're like kind of crossing lanes. I mean, not like in an accident way, but you know what I'm saying. And so oftentimes I am the liaison, maybe answering questions, maybe making sense out of people, maybe they get your info and they want to compare your rate or they want to do something.
Yeah. You're their trusted advisor. In a sense, we both play, and especially you as the real estate agent, you're sort of a psychologist. Because
so are you.
I am. And because they are entrusting us, with probably the biggest decision they might ever make.
Yep.
So you get to know the intimacy of their life in a way that their friends might not even. I get to know them in a very intimate way financially, which makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
And I got to tell you, it is my greatest fucking pleasure.
Yeah.
Like, it is so cool.
Yeah.
To talk about, I know you feel this way too, about people's life goals, and to know that I can be a part of so many milestones with them. Some are really happy, some are really sad and hard.
Yeah.
But it feels so nice to be able to be a part of that adventure.
I think we can both agree that our why, the why that we do this, is truly to help people.
It is.
Yeah. And I also think that's why we have such a strong synergy and we work so well together.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for helping all of my clients. You're amazing.
Well, thank you for entrusting me. Thank you for the opportunity to chat with you and to share a lot of cool information with hopefully a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'd be honored to come back and share, all kinds of market insights, different programs, where interest rates are, where they're heading. There's a lot of cool things and a lot of cool value that we can bring to a lot of people.
I think so. Well, thanks. You're the best.
You're the best.
Catch you soon.
Young John!